Well, as we continue to mark Black History Month, tonight we're joined by baseball history researcher and writer Duke Goldman. One of Duke's latest projects centers on Monte Irvin, a Negro League great who was one of the first black players brought up to the major leagues. I asked Duke Goldman what led to his particular interest in Monte Irvin.
You know, I've been researching the process of baseball integration and looking at how that unfolded. And I wanted to talk to people who were black ball players during World War II and may have served in the military. And I knew another gentleman who had written about Monte, and he was able to get me Monte's contact information to talk to him about his World War II service. And right from the start, I realized, well, this man is remarkable. And like a lot of other people, I didn't quite realize just what a star he was. He was actually one of two ball players, the other being Roy Campanella, who truly had significant starring careers in both the Negro Leagues and the Major Leagues.
You use the term, I believe, in your writing, an accident of history. And is it fair to say that, but for strange chance and fate, Monte Irvin, rather than Jackie Robinson, could well have been the first African-American in the major leagues?
Yes. Monte was probably the preeminent star in the early 1940s, and it was understood amongst the Negro League owners of the day that if somebody was going to be picked soon, it was going to be Monte. You know, there were people like Satchel and Josh, but they were pretty far along in their careers, not nearly as young. Monte was, in some ways, profiled similar to Jackie. He was a guy who was a multi-sport star in high school, played some college ball, was married, was settled, was talented, youthful. He was a good man to pick. Unfortunately for Monte, both he and Jackie Robinson went into the military, but Monte ended up serving in Europe during World War II. Jackie did not. Jackie was court-martialed. He was honorably discharged when he was not convicted, and he played in the Negro Leagues in 1945, and Monte was overseas. And so Monte did not get the chance that Jackie did. Jackie only played 2 months in the Negro Leagues. Monte played and starred for about 7 or 8 years.
I know I've heard stories, and maybe you can clear this up, that Monte Irvin, 1945, after he came back from the war, was approached by the Dodgers, by Branch Rickey, and didn't feel he was up to it, didn't feel he was ready at that time.
Correct, and he told me that personally when I met him a year and a half ago. He had some ear problems. He felt like spending those years over in Europe, he said afterwards he was never quite the same ball player. And so he was approached at some point in 1945 because, again, people look at history and they think the way it turned out, well, this was sort of a monolithic plan. Jackie was the one. Well, Jackie was one of a number of people they were looking at. And so they talked to Monte, they talked to Jackie. By the time they got serious about Monte, I think they'd already pretty much fastened on Jackie. But they were still exploring. Branch Rickey was looking at other ball players. He was figuring that Jackie was only the first of many. And right at that time, in the summer of 1945, Monte said, I'm really not ready. I have to get my feet back on the ground. So he ended up going back and playing in the Negro Leagues for the Newark Eagles in 1946, starred in the last significant Negro Leagues World Series, hit 3 home runs in a 7-game series, beating the Kansas City Monarchs, the team that Satchel Paige then pitched for. And it wasn't until 1949, 2 years after Jackie debuted, that Monte integrated the New York Giants along with Hank Thompson in the same game. But he was still a pioneer. He was one of the first 10 African-American ball players to play in the major leagues.
You mentioned that you had the honor, the pleasure of sitting down with him, meeting with him, talking with him. Everything I've ever read about him was that this was a very unassuming gentleman. This was a quiet man who let the bat speak for him, if you will.
Well, and his bat did. He was called, one of his nicknames was Mr. Murder, because, boy, he murdered the ball. But yes, he was the best kind of a gentle person. He was engaging, he was polite, he was sincere, but he was also quietly self-assured. It wasn't like he was saying, oh, I wasn't anybody big. He said, hey, I was a great ball player. And, people who are in the know would tell you he was probably a better baseball player than Jackie was. But in the end, I would say he was disappointed that he didn't get to be the groundbreaker, but he was not bitter. He was happy to have had his chance belatedly to prove himself. And he sure did. He still led the National League in RBIs in 1951. He practically destroyed the New York Yankees in a losing effort in the 1951 World Series. He stole home in that World Series. So he made a mark in the major leagues as well. And then he continued to do that throughout the rest of his life.
Did you get a sense when you talked to him, though, of what impact the discrimination, the segregation of baseball had on him personally? The years when he could have been in the majors, making records and making bigger money, though they didn't make the money then they do today, but as opposed to being confined to the Negro Leagues for many years?
I think the sense I got from him is he wasn't happy about it. He felt restricted. He did what he could to, he played in Mexico, he played in Puerto Rico. He was scuffling like all sorts of other people, trying to make a living with a young, growing family. And he felt unhappy that things played out the way they did. He could have easily stayed in America during World War II. He almost got put on a military team. So I think he felt a little bit like, gee, things didn't break my way. On the other hand, he had that ability to say, I got to live my life and let things play out. And I think he was, in the end, happy that, although belatedly, he did get a good chance.
He really was, as you've called him, a groundbreaker in many ways, even beyond being one of the earliest African Americans in the major leagues.
Yes, he was a part of an all-black outfield, the first one in the 1951 World Series with Willie Mays and Hank Thompson. He later was a scout for the New York Mets, where he may have been the first one. I'm not sure if he was the first, but there certainly weren't many African Americans at that time. He was a radio announcer for the New York Jets football team in 1963, which again was, there may have been isolated instances, but he was for a full year, was their announcer. And then he became an executive, and he's been credited as being the first African American executive in baseball, working in the Baseball Commissioner's office starting in 1968 until 1984. So this is a man that all throughout his life, and then in later years, he was someone who was involved. He was also the head of the committee for the Negro League ball players to be brought into the Hall of Fame in the 70s. He would be interviewed constantly and wrote introductions and for all sorts of books that uncovered more African American history. He was just always present.
Fascinating stuff. Let's take a minute. Let's tell people where they can find your material online and elsewhere. Where can we find the writing?
I've published some material recently on seamheads.com, including my Remembrance of Monte called Monte Made a Mark, which was a top story a couple weeks ago. I'm now working on a story about the lesser-known aspects of Monte's life. It is going to appear later this year in a publication called Black Ball, which is put out by my baseball society, SABR, in conjunction with McFarland and Company.
Duke Goldman, always a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much, Jim.